Excited to have the one and only Mr. Mat Steinmentz. We're going to talk about all things cycling, bike fitting, entrepreneurship, coaching, and more. So let's get it done. We are ready, Matt. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for being so patient with my equipment setup. We were just talking that the last podcast interview I did was with Rachel Joyce, and it was a month ago. People, of course, been really busy. It's like mid-October, so it makes sense. So thanks again for being on the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome.
It took us a little while to link up, huh?
Dude, but perseverance.
Yeah,
Dig deep.
Good work.
I appreciate it. Yeah, so I remember I first sent you an email, of course, out of the blue, of course. And then I remember seeing you at the expo of the Boulder 70.3. And I was like, I just better say hi. So actually, it was a good time for me to meet Joe Gambles. Well, I've known him in person, but I also invited him to be on the show. So that's how you're doing, hustling. It's like I just got an email I've been coordinating with Tim DeBoom to do the interview as well. So he went to Kona. So, making progress.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. He just sent me a text.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're trying to link up tomorrow.
That's awesome. I mean, all thanks to Boom. I know that you, Tony, helped you to develop the logo for 51 Speedshop.
Yep.
Tony's kind of my chief creative officer with Dig Deep, so we're working on this big project. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I was on doing my research. I saw some photos that you posted on Instagram where you were in Kiev in Ukraine. What were you doing there? I'm just curious. Vacation or for work or what?
Yeah, I was going there for work. I do consulting work with Guru.
Okay.
And what they have is technical bike fit equipment, software and hardware. And so what I do a lot of times is I will have to, and not have to, like I get to. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Travel the world and teach people how to use that equipment.
Got it.
And so I was in Ukraine working with their distributor out there. And so it's always great because I'm always a little hesitant to go to places like Ukraine.
Yeah.
A few months ago, I was in Moscow, Russia.
Yeah.
And every time I go, it ends up being a great trip, a great experience.
Yeah.
And anything that anyone said to me to make me hesitant to go, I felt silly for ever having any concerns once I had been there.
Was it because, like traveling, or is it because, Russia, right?
Yeah, it's just, yeah. I mean, I've traveled all over the world, so the travel part, I'm not concerned with. I typically will go by myself and I'll meet somebody there.
Yeah.
And it's always ends up being great.
It's funny you talk about Russia. So the latest World Cup took place there, I don't know, a couple months ago. And I remember thinking, a little background. I'm from Peru, and the last time that we went to World Cup was 40 years ago. So it was this huge. I mean, we qualified for this World Cup, so it was a huge deal, for our country, for our team to go. So I didn't think that many people were going to fly all the way from Peru to Russia. You should have heard, the people roaring in the stadium, calling the Peru and singing the anthem, and there were thousands of people from Peru, and you hear stories that people would quit their jobs in Peru. They would use a severance payment to just afford for the trip. They will sell stuff. Like, people just went crazy. But it was quite the experience to see the excitement, the enthusiasm from people. We didn't do well at all, but that's a different story. And where's Guru from?
So Guru, they are in Connecticut.
Oh, it's an American brand.
Yeah, so they're Guru. There used to be a Guru bike company.
Okay.
And they made.
Oh, yeah.
And so they were in Canada, and they created the dynamic fit unit. So Durrell Sports, who owns Cannondale, GT, I think a few other brands. They did own Segoy. They purchased the naming rights for that. And Guru, the bike company, is no longer in business. So now Guru is under the Durrell Sports Cycling Sports Group umbrella.
Got it. Okay. And going back to the topic of traveling, like I'm just curious, you travel a lot, like what percentage of a year would you say, just ballpark, are you on the road or traveling? Or many days a year?
It'll go off and on. I'll have years where it's like I like a little bit of a variety, so I'll travel a ton for like 2 years. A lot of it's international, so I mean at least one trip a month, not necessarily international, but one trip. And then I'll have a period of time where it's like, okay, I'm a little burned out on that.
Yeah.
I want to stay here in Colorado, and so I'll limit my travel, as much as I can. Obviously, different jobs or roles or projects will have me traveling a lot more, but I have 2 young kids now, and so it's a little bit different. Where it used to be, it didn't have such a big impact on my family when I would travel in the past, and now it's a little bit more difficult, and I start missing the kids. But again, technology, we'd FaceTime, and it helps things pass. But yeah, it's just off and on.
Yeah, nice. So you are from Indiana, is that right?
Correct.
Where from Indiana?
Liston, Indiana.
Okay.
Population like 400. I think there's a flashing 4-way stop. That's our only light in town. It's a small farm community.
How far is it from Indy or I don't know other places? Or
not
other bigger cities?
It's 30-40 minutes.
Oh yeah, it's not too bad.
Pretty close to Speedway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so probably 30 minutes from Speedway.
When I was a kid, I was like an exchange student in senior high, and I ended up going to this little town in Kansas called Waukene. It had like 2,500 people, and I would go to school every day, and my classmates would be like, "Why in the world would you choose to come to this place?" And me, being from Lima, grew up in a big city, I loved the change. Actually, I think that, and we were talking about this before we started this conversation, that I lived in Bloomington, Indiana for a couple of years, college town. That experience made a huge impact on me in the sense that I used to think that I wanted to live in big cities in the U.S. But going to school there, small college town.
Yeah, Bloomington's great. Good cycling community.
Yeah, everything is green, and people, respect the traffic laws and I was just like, yeah, this is great. And I think that's one of the reasons why or that impacted my decision to move to Boulder, really, because I was like, I don't want to live in bigger cities. But so I was doing my research for this interview, and I read an article where you talk about that I guess since you were young, you were always into sports.
Correct. Yeah.
There's a part of a slow twitch article where I think you talk about your Schwinn bike and and you were very into it. Why don't you talk more about those early years when growing up, in Indiana, and what sports you used to play, and how did you discover, I guess, endurance sports?
Okay, yeah, I'd always been into sports.
Yeah,
I never was one of those kids that, I was terrible at video games. I'd get more satisfaction watching someone play a video game than playing it myself. I didn't care. So I was always outdoors. And, I was into all the ball sports, baseball, basketball, football, tennis. And I just loved it.
Yeah.
And I would, I would work on all the fundamentals of the sports. I would look at the different batting stances of the hitters that I liked, or how different basketball players shot. Everyone has a different kind of, we can call it biomechanics, but just fundamentals of the way they moved. And so I was just totally into it. Ended up playing basketball that ended up kind of being the sport that I loved. And my dad was a runner.
Okay.
So at the time, what first got me into triathlon, I think I was probably in 3rd or 4th grade. And I'd watch the Tour de France. I'd watch the Hawaii Ironman.
Yeah.
And again, like if I get into it, I want the equipment.
Yeah.
And so for that period of time, I had a Schwinn bike.
Yeah.
I had an Aero disc cover. I had Look pedals and real bike shoes. I had the Scott Aero bars.
Look at that.
And I don't think they made cycling kits that were like that would fit me at the time. So I remember I wore like a pajama top.
Oh man,
and
that's awesome.
some spandex.
Yeah.
And so I was really into it for a while, and then it was just being from, a small town, basketball town, Indiana, that sport kind of won over what I was going to do through high school. And I don't know how well received I would be. I think it's a little bit different now, but then, rolling around the farm roads in my Lycra. And so, yeah, basketball won out through there. And I ended up, from a from a basketball perspective, it's like I'm 5'9", 5'10". I was just a dime a dozen. So that's where like my work ethic of, okay, I got to do everything that I can to be the best or to get the most out of myself that I can. So, I focused on nutrition, strength conditioning, all the fundamentals, the like court IQ. So knowing, like having a court, they call it like court vision. I really was a student of the sport, did everything that I could to maximize my ability. And then at some point, I went to Ball State, and I was on the essentially you call it like the practice team, on the basketball team, and never got to dress. And that, if I do something, I want to be good at it. And so that wasn't working for me. So I stopped. And after a few years of, you lose that athletic identity, which, a lot of athletes face. And so a lot of the stuff that I did, I'd still play intramurals, but, I loved to go out and socialize and party and do all that. And it reached a point where I was like, okay, I need to find my athletic identity again. And I'm like, well, there's this, I was in school, for exercise physiology, and I started to really get back into thinking, all right, well, maybe I can do triathlon.
Wait. So this is when at Ball State?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So after high school, I went to Ball State, and I started studying exercise physiology there. Okay. And that's when probably around my junior year, I was like, okay, I need to get it together, and I need to discover some form of purpose to, exercise and be fit other than, so I look good when I go to spring break. And so I started doing triathlon again. Yeah. There.
One of the things that I've noticed about you is that you've always been really like a student of like, you've always taken things seriously, even since you were a kid. You were just talking about that you would study all these things. You would just try to learn as many things as possible about, you were talking about the example with baseball, and like, where do you get that from?
I don't really. I think a lot of it is, again, like I said, if I'm going to do something, I want to be good at it. And I've always been very aware. So I think just having the curiosity to pick up on things that maybe other people don't pay attention to. Like, like I do bike fits now. Yep. And I knew what good bike fits look like before I even knew how to do a bike fit. So it was like I was just aware of like human movement and form and technique. And so I just think that a lot of it is that curiosity to, if I'm going to do something, I'm all in. I'm going to apply myself. I'm going to try to learn everything there is to know, because I want to be the best at it, or I want to make sure that, I'm not being lazy because I'm not informed because I'm being lazy and choosing not to try to learn. So nice. I've always been that way.
Do you remember having any heroes of the sport when growing up? I don't know, triathlon, cycling, basketball, any sport?
Oh yeah. I mean, I like mimicry is what I love. I mean, so it was like Jordan in basketball. And then I always had this being from Indiana, we had the Pacers. Reggie Miller was a big deal then. So I mean, there's a lot of, Larry Bird. I know more about basketball, from 15, 20 years ago than I even do now. Like same with baseball.
Yeah.
So I always found, I guess, as you called it, like heroes or people that I looked up to because I felt that, they're the best in their sport. I want to mimic what it is that they do. I remember in, triathlon, there was the obvious Dave Scott and Mark Allen, Greg LeMond.
Yeah.
Was someone, Lance Armstrong when he was young. So, yeah, there was a lot of people. I mean, I followed the sport and definitely. I mean, I still probably, I'm not as aware of it, but I look at other, athletes still when I'm out going for a run. I'm thinking, okay, who has great run form? And, I always think of like Craig Alexander.
Right.
So even when I'm out today running, I'm still kind of visualizing that stuff still. I visualize stuff when I'm out just cruising around on the bike. It's
I love that.
Yeah, so I still do it.
You made me think.
I'm still a kid.
You made me. I just thought of sometimes when I'm riding up left hand Canyon Drive, and I'm hitting those hills, and when you're a little bit in pain or when you're a little tired, I think about, or I pretend that I'm doing the tour, and and I think like Lance being in pain. So yeah, a little bit of extra motivation. What made you go to Ball State? What?
I had a friend that went there, and
because you went there for college and also for a master's degree.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they had like one of the, if not the first human performance lab in the U.S. So there were three. I guess you'd call them professors. One went to, I can't remember their names, but Dr. Costal was the one, and he was one of like the fathers of U.S. exercise physiology and human performance. And so he was at Ball State. IU is another really big that integrated exercise physiology, and then in Austin, Texas. So that's kind of where all this originated. And I was totally into, human performance. And so I had a friend that went there, and it was just easy to, it was probably pretty easy to get in to Ball State.
Yeah. It's funny. I was just thinking about, I used to think that I wanted to go to med school. And so I was just getting myself ready to apply for med school and all that. And one day I realized that was not my thing, and I also ended up. I had a talk with one of my best friends, or my best friend in school. He told me about this career that I didn't know, industrial engineering. He told me, how much he liked it and how much fun it was, and the fact that it's so versatile. I ended up going there, which I loved. I didn't. One of the reasons why I wanted to go to med school was because I didn't think I was good with numbers, but then I realized that I was pretty decent with them because, to go to engineering, you have to be,
just a little bit
pretty decent. This is awesome. So, and then after finishing school, did you move to, I knew that you wanted to move to Boulder pretty much. You always knew that you wanted to move to a place where, all these pros were living and training. Did you move here right after you finished school, or how was that transition?
Yeah, so what I did, it wasn't until grad school that I was like, okay, I want to try to do something in triathlon. And we'd be sitting in class, and the professor would say, what does everyone in here expect to do with this degree? And everyone would say, I want to work with athletes. And our professor would say, chances are most of you, that's not going to happen. You're going to be working in a gym, counting reps for people, or you're going to be working with unhealthy people in cardiac rehab. And so I knew that if I wanted to do something with this, I had to go where the action was. And so that's when I moved out here, and I moved out here to work with a coach and athlete of the name of Gordo Byrne.
Yeah.
And we, I helped him start Endurance Corner. So that's kind of how I got out here, and basically right out of school. I think I hung out for, the summer and maybe a few months into that, and then packed the bags and drove out.
Is that how do you meet him?
Email correspondence.
Oh, got it.
And I went and did a camp with him. And so we got to know each other a little bit there. And then, so he brought me out. It was essentially an internship.
Yeah.
That I got to come out here and do. So that was good.
Nice. And after that experience, did you knew already that you wanted to start working in the bike industry as a fitter, or?
I never thought that I would be a bike fitter. I didn't even know it was like a career that you could have. When I think it was in 2008 or 2007, I was setting up and running a physiology lab that Gordo had set up in his basement.
Okay.
And so Dan Emfield, who is the founder of Slow Twitch, and he's basically my bike fit mentor, Gordo had him come out to give me and like 3 or 4 other people kind of a one-on-one personal bike fit school. Nice. So that'd been the first time that I'd ever been exposed to, bike fit principles and philosophy. I'd always been into, again, looking at, I could sit there and say that person looks like crap on a bike, or that's good. I knew what it looked like. I just didn't know anything about bike fit. And then I think it was around 2008, Retool was starting, and they had approached me about being working with them. And at that time, they had a studio in Denver.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm not a bike fitter. It's Denver. I don't want to leave the bubble here in Boulder.
Of course.
So, I passed on that. And then it's either later in the year or sometime early in 2009, they were opening a Boulder studio.
Okay.
And I'd reached a point in my life where I was like, I'll do this. And that's really where I learned commercial fitting protocol.
Got it.
So they had, Todd Carver had already been working there, and he's the one that, took me in and taught me about biomechanical, data and, fit flow and fit protocol. And I just picked up on it really quickly.
Was Retool the first company that used a lot of technology in bike fitting, or was that the first company that, or were there other companies that were doing that before? But it seems like Retool was the first one that, they put, technology for bike fitting in the map. Yeah,
it existed, but not at a level that could be a commercially viable business. So there was a lot there. Even when I was in school, Boulder Center for Sports Medicine, they would have these like Vicon. So they were doing motion capture, but they were really impacted by light. So Retool is the first company that made this available to, we could sit here in this room right now and do a bike fit with that motion capture technology. And you couldn't do that with what was there. So they were the first ones to be able to make it like a real thing that you could do in a commercial setting.
That's pretty cool. I remember the first time I got my bike Retool, I So I was living, we were living in Arkansas, my wife and I was training for my first Ironman, and we lived in Northwest Arkansas. So there was a Retool, or actually it was a competitive cyclist.
Okay.
So I don't know if they're still based there, but I drove to Little Rock, and yeah, it was pretty cool because I remember seeing the videos on YouTube of all these pros doing the Retool bike fit, and I don't know, the fitter would ask the pros some questions and then would do some stretching and things like that. Then I remember that my fitter would do the same with me. I would be like, oh, this is awesome. Like, he's doing the same things as with the pros. But
well, and that's the key. Like, and I'm part of this problem, but the fact that people will say, I got a Retool fit. And I think like I made a name for myself actually, adapting to technology and using technology and science to improve athletic performance. But we always say that it's a tool to be able to do. It's a great tool, but the fitter has to be able to do the fit. So, for some reason, it always bothers me a little bit when everyone's like, "Well, I got a Retool fit, so my bike fit should be good," and it's not really. I mean, you can give me carpentry tools and say, "Hey, go build a house," and I'm going to be like, "Yeah, I don't." Even though I have all the tools that I need, so I always just say that, a good bike fitter should have good tools, but those tools don't make a good bike fitter.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense. There's a line on your website. I thought it was really cool where you say something like bike fitter, or maybe in an article, bike fitter is king. Like,
yeah, the bike fitter, the fitter is king.
Oh, the fitter is king. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. You're right.
Yeah, because when we first started, there was a lot of people there's a lot of great bike fitters out there. And at the time, I think they were resistant to change and resistant to adapt that technology. So they'd be resistant to it. And I wrote that article saying, hey, the fitter is still driving this thing, but you need to adapt and accept this technology. It's just there's ways to document your work, make it repeatable, time efficient. I mean, we see it in medicine. I'm not gonna if you think you have a broken arm, I'm not going to sit there and push on it and say, does that hurt, when I can say, okay, well, let's go look at a diagnostic image. We have the technology now to see, do you have a broken arm?
Right.
Let's use it.
Right. And so I'm thinking about, like, how did you work at Retool for several years, and how did that evolve into working and training athletes like Crowe, Craig Alexander, Miranda Carver, etc.? I'm just curious about, for instance, how do you meet Crowe?
Yeah, so he had a relationship. His manager actually was one of the founders of Retool.
Yeah, Franco.
Yep. So a lot of these athletes, just through the marketing and we had, myself and Todd, like, we were, really good at what we did. So people, they wanted to come and work with us. And it just, you're there for an hour, 2 hours, and you start to develop a rapport with the athletes. And so when I'd have an athlete on the stand, I wouldn't talk to them just about their bike fit. I'd talk about, their equipment, their bottle setup, some of their training. And I just, I was never pushy about it, but I would just show them that, hey, I know what I'm talking about, but I also know what I don't know at times, so I would, if they would ask me a question, I wouldn't just have an answer, so I seemed like I was the smartest person in the room. I would do my research.
That's good.
And that built confidence. And over time, they would give me a chance. They'd give me a shot, and I would develop, a long-term, I would even call it, you can call it coaching, but I was a sounding board, someone who, from a performance standpoint, if I didn't know the answer, I'd utilize my resources to find, answers for them.
And from what I've read, I think Crowe was also like open to let you try new things, right? That's I guess that's one of the things that help you also to solidify, build that relationship as well.
Yeah, and I wouldn't force it. I would say, here's what I think. I would kind of let them move it, their own pace with it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, with Crowe, when he lost in 2010.
So that was after winning the first time.
So he won in 08, 09.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Lost in 2010.
Oh, yeah. That was the year when Macca and everybody were like riding together and they got it. Mm-hmm.
And so I always say that, failure forces change, and he got fourth that year, which is nothing to, be too upset with. But, once you've won, you want to keep winning.
Yeah.
And he was the first one to give me a chance and let me, we worked, I would say it was more of a partnership. We worked together to analyze things, and, I could look and say, okay, you've done, a ton of endurance training, big, training weeks. Let's keep some of that, but let's start working, a little bit, let's start working a little bit more on, some intensity. And I find a lot of times that you'll have some of these ITU guys, they come in and they'll struggle initially at long course. They're fast, but they need to develop that endurance and that strength. And then at some point, they're going to need to go back to a little bit more intensity. And depending on how young an athlete is, like they can cycle, through that. And so Craig was ready to get back on the gas a little bit more. And, for instance, he used to do in his Kona prep, he would do a really big ride on Wednesday that's 5-6 hours. And then he would do the same thing again on a Saturday.
Wow. And
so what we started doing is we would keep one of those, but then, and we would look at things like kilojoules or TSS, and we would have a number from that. Mm-hmm. And so then what we would do is we would try to replicate that number from his 6-hour ride in 4.5 hours or 5 hours. So it was like,
oh, wow. Talk about intensity.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So we do things like that, build a little bit. We would have it where you didn't really have to take recovery weeks because we would build it. And look, he's an anomaly. People try to copy, what he's done, and yeah, he's, he was an anomaly where, he rarely got injured. He could throw down a lot of, he could put down a lot of training. Yeah, he was.
Talk about ITU and fast guys. I was surprised about Javier Gomez's 11th place this year. Mm-hmm. What do you think? I thought he was gonna place a top. I don't know.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed that he didn't feature much in the race. I think though that he's yet to focus on the distance. I think what happened is I think this year is going to open his eyes. Where he can't just. He was racing the ITU circuit, hopping into the 70.3 races and winning a world championship.
Right.
So I don't think that same approach he's going to be able to take to Ironman if he wants to take it serious. And I'm like he knows that. Yeah. I think he's gonna have to focus a little bit more on that because I still think that he has the potential to be really good. He's strong. But yeah, I think I was a little disappointed as a fan of the sport, but I think he knows now that he can't just roll into that and win.
What do you think of this year's winners? Were you surprised? Well, maybe not with Daniela Rief.
Yeah.
Not
too surprised.
Yeah.
I think when you get, first of all, the swim didn't really shake things up that much. Everyone was there. If some of these Uber bikers are 2 or 3 minutes back, that's nothing.
Yeah.
So I think the swim didn't shake things up that much. And then when there's no wind on the bike, it's like the velocity is so fast. It's like how are, if they're going 26 or 27 miles an hour, on the flats and rollers, to be able to go ride 28, you just can't do that. So there's really nothing that people can do. And I think that, some of the mistakes that people made were not being in that lead group with that Dreets was pulled the whole time. Because there's another group back there that was plenty capable of being in that group, but once the pack and the gap was formed, the amount of effort that it would take to try to bridge that when the velocity is already that high, you just can't. I think it's too difficult. And then, once you hit the run, the moment I saw those guys running, you had Bart, and then you had T.O. and Curry, and then you had Patrick Lang. I don't know if it's Lang or Langa.
Yeah, that's a good. I always think about. I think they say they call him Langa. But
Langa, yeah. So Langa. When I saw him kind of get dropped a little bit at the beginning, I'm like, those guys are running way too fast. And I knew I was like, if Patrick's feeling good, this is his race.
It's funny because Patrick Lenga, okay, he wins last year, and I didn't really know about him until he won. And basically, I haven't been following triathlon a lot this year, but I didn't really hear much about him this year. I heard more about people like Lionel Sanders and T.O., and I thought that, probably Lionel Sanders will win. And I was surprised, but not surprised that Patrick won because he's like a machine.
Yeah, you don't know. It's all how that bike shakes out. And yeah, I don't know how good of a biker he is. I don't know if we get a really hard day. I don't know. I don't know if I think it. He runs fast, but if someone gets 5 minutes on him, like a Jan or even a Keenlay or Sanders, that might be hard to. And he's shown so far that he's not messed up once on that run.
Yeah,
but there's always a first time.
Talk about your personal experience in triathlon. So when I was doing my research, and correct me if I'm wrong, you talk about training for your first. When you talk about being all in, right? I'm thinking about that word. So you decided that you wanted to give triathlon a try, and then you started training for a half, and then you decided to go and do a full, pretty much
right away.
Yeah. Right away, and you didn't have a great experience, and I think, is that true? And I think maybe you also realized maybe this is not something that I want to do, special full distance Ironman.
Yeah, I'd got to where, like, I was like, I can train with these people that are fast. I can go do a bike ride with them. I can go do a run with them. I can swim with them in the pool. So I think it's just my lack of experience. I would go into these things not respecting the distance, thinking that, well, I'm fast. I'm gonna go drill this thing. And so I had just bad experiences. I didn't know how to execute a race. I think a lot of people are like this. So I did that from probably 06 to 09. And the last race that I did was Ironman Wisconsin in 2009, and had a crappy race. I'd swim too hard, and that race is always, it probably shouldn't be wetsuit legal.
Oh, really?
But they make it wetsuit legal. And I remember I just drill the swim and overheat. And I think, that would basically ruin my day. And, and still just, I always felt like the bike ride, I should be riding in an effort where it's like, just holding on.
Yeah.
I didn't know. And then, the run would go terrible. And so I finished that. I didn't finish that race. I was like at mile 18 on my hands and knees puking, and I was like, I'm done. I'm done with this. And that's when I really focused on my career. And after doing that for a while, I started racing again in 2013 and 2014, just doing the half distance and doing it to where I was only training at a level that I was comfortable with. I'd only commit so much to it.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like I'd swim 2 to 3 times a week. And I know if I'm all in,
you need to swim much
that's
more.
5-6 times, so, but I was doing just enough to do what I thought I needed to be, competitive in my age group. And really what would get me out there is just, my friends are out there and we're, talking shit and, wagering, bar tab on,
nice.
And creating the, the spread. I'll give you 2 minutes, you give me 3. And I finally got to a point where I could practice what I preached, so I could execute a race. And even, in a half Ironman, I would bike. I'm biking easier in a half Ironman than I used to try to bike in these Ironman races that I did.
Oh, wow.
So, I got to where, like, I never knew I could run. I always thought, I was like, my nutrition would bother me, but it wasn't the sugar and water and salt that I was taking in. It was the intensity in which I would swim, I would bike, and then my gut would just shut down on the run. So I never really had, once I figured that out, when I came back to race, I didn't have nutrition issues.
Nice.
Just because I would execute the race.
Yeah.
And I found out that I could run.
Right.
I was running 121, 122 off the bike, and I was if I was going to stick with it, I was going to start trying to bring that and run that half under 120.
Right.
But in 2014 is the last time I've done a triathlon, because my girls were born, and something I think a lot of times something has to give, when you have a working career.
Yeah, of course.
Kids.
That's what I was also gonna say. Like, you've been really busy. I mean, especially the last years. And I'm gonna say this because of your business, 51 Speedshop. Can you talk more about what your business is about, and how do you switch from working for Retool to starting your own business?
Yes, I left when I was at Retool. I was doing a lot. I mean, even when I was there, it was like I was coaching. I was, doing a lot of a variety of things, and it got to the point where as Retool grew, they really needed the people that were working there to basically. I was going to have to quit, doing all the other things, and I like doing all those other things. So we just, mutually agreed that, I would still do bike fit stuff and come and, help out with, any sort of the education stuff every now and then. But I was going to, go off and on my own. And I knew that I didn't want the name of my business to be my name.
Yeah.
Because starting off, I didn't know what it was going to be. But if I ever wanted other people to be a part of it, it's like, you're not going to wear a hat that says Mat Steinmentz on it. You want people want to be part of, a brand or a community. So you'd mentioned Tony DeBoom. I'm friends with the DeBooms, and I reached out to him. I was like, okay, I need to try to figure out a name and a logo, and so there was a few different things he came to me with, and one was, it was just 51. And 51 is a lucky number in cycling. So during the classic era of cycling, it won, I think it was like 4 tour victories in 9 years.
Oh, wow.
And, Eddie Merckx won his first tour, number 51. Bernard Hinault, number 51.
Wow.
Bernard Thevenet, number 51. So in that era, it became a lucky number. And I was like, I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I always we'll say create your own luck. And so then I added the speed shop part of it, and I called it, like 51 Speed Shops, a mobile, mobile and virtual performance. I don't want to call it performance center, but
right.
And so to start, we were doing coaching, we were doing like health analysis. I was going to wind tunnels, bike fit, just kind of everything that a lot of the details that you can do, like a one-stop shop for performance improvement. And then as time kind of passed, it would get to the point where a lot of people would wonder what it is that we even do,
right?
Because we were kind of tapping into everything, and that's when, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna use my experience to start a component business, and that is going to be 51 Speed Shop.
What made you? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I tend to do this a lot, but I'm just so curious. Like, what made you think? Okay, I'm going to start the component business. Was it because you saw a gap, an opportunity in the industry, or just because you were just really curious about, developing those things? Or
I'd done a lot of consulting with, a lot of companies, and I got to really see inside these companies, and I got to see like the brain trust, the engineers, the marketing. I got to really get to know them, and I was thinking, okay, why are they hiring me? Wouldn't they want to have someone like me in house? Because we have these bikes, but what little attention was paid to were actually the contact points that, and so I was doing some work with Cervelo, and they let me make up my own title. And so I called myself the Director of Human Bike Interaction.
Nice.
So looking at this, I was like, I have all this experience with working with people every day, taking existing product and conforming it to them. And there could be a bike that is perfect for you, but the saddle's not. And so you're going to go hop on that bike or test ride that bike, and you're not going to like it because of a contact point, not because the frame's not right or not.
Got it.
And so what I saw that I could do is there has not been like a bike fitter or someone who's worked with all these people to actually create product for them. So I always say, a lot of companies will talk about how they took a fit first approach, or they'll consult with someone like myself. And I always say, well, we are the bike fitters,
right?
So we know what stuff, how it must interact with the human body to promote, comfort.
Yep.
And because at the end of the day, we're looking for speed on a bike. And I always say that speed is comfort plus power plus aerodynamics.
Right. Yeah.
And so I started that business because I felt like, it was a very overlooked part, of the bike. And so through my experience, I get my sample set in front of me all day long.
Yeah.
And so I saw like a little gap there that, I could start a component brand focused on rider contact points. It's
interesting when you say comfort, it's a key element of the whole experience, because I know sometimes you think that you just want to be, that I guess being fast or being really fast in the bike means being super aero all the time, and being aero all the time doesn't mean that, you want to be comfortable, right, to be effective and efficient in what you do. So
here's how I explain it is comfort. You could think of it as comfort and sustainability. So for instance, if I'm working with a guy who's going to go do a 10K time trial, if I put him in a position where he's only comfortable for 8K, or he can only sustain the position for 8K, I failed. So in reality, it's like comfort is a subjective thing. And, when we say comfort or sustainability, it's the ability to sustain your position for the duration of your event. So you can see it's relative there. So if you're comfortable, if you're only doing sprint triathlon, I mean, you're probably going to ride your bike longer than whatever a sprint triathlon distance is, 10 to 15 miles. But you really, you need, for a performance standpoint, you need to be able to sustain your position for that duration. So comfort isn't, everyone thinks like, oh, I'm sitting up on the bike, this big cushy saddle. It's more about sustainability.
Yeah.
And it's the number one thing, because if you can't sustain that position, the power transfer doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And aerodynamics doesn't matter, because you've screwed up both of those anyway.
Right. Yeah. It's funny because when I look at your air bar extensions, and I look at mine, I think I have, I don't know, some kind of profile design one. Yours, they look so much. When I see your riders, using your equipment, they just look so tucked in and efficient. It's pretty cool, like, to see that. Now, I'm curious to ask you, like, I imagine that when you started working with all these pro athletes, how did you introduce them to your products?
I think it's just the relationship that I have with them over time, and they trust me. And really, I just introduce it to them, like, no pressure. Don't have to use this if you don't like it. I mean, I don't have any deals or anything with anybody. It's just, I put a lot of thought into, something as simple as an aero bar extension.
Yeah.
Like companies don't really care about aero bar extensions. So it's like, I do, because I think tension, we use 3D printed segments to construct those extension shapes into like a neutral wrist. And, there's varying degrees of a neutral wrist, but it's like, if you all of a sudden flex your wrist down, that puts tension in your wrist, into your arm and your shoulder. So like a lot of times stuff starts there. And people don't think about that.
Yeah.
And so I paid a lot of attention to that detail. And when you get on the extensions, like, you can see it right away.
Yeah.
You can feel it right away.
I mean, that's one of the things I think is amazing or really cool about your products, is they're so, it's a specific niche, right?
Yeah.
That, I mean, you're right. It's probably a small part of the overall, I guess, structure of the bike, but
Like we have a really nice arm cup.
Yeah, I saw that.
We have one coming out here in probably about a month that will work on almost any bike.
Cool.
So that's something that you can upgrade to, because it's like your entire upper body weight is being supported by that arm cup.
Yeah.
And again, people don't think about that. You can feel the difference. A rider can feel the difference, but when, a lot of times, with these other manufacturers, it's almost like that arm cup thing was an afterthought.
Did you use the word that I was going to say, afterthought? Because I've been there.
They're like, we need one, so we're just going to put it on there. And look, there's a lot of there's a lot of other companies that make great products. So I'm not bashing that. It's just, there's $1,000 aero bars that have crappy arm cups on it, and your entire weight and upper body is supported by those.
Yeah, I remember I bought.
You don't have to name names.
No, but I remember I bought a pair of Zip aero bars, a Buka bar. I bought them from Tim, actually, the Boom. He sold me from great price, thanks Tim. But great aero bar, I love that. But the oh my god,
the extension?
The extension, the cup,
arm cup.
Arm cup. It was not. I don't know. It just maybe it was not well fitted to my position, but I didn't really have any a good experience with it. I really struggle with it. Even the one that I ride right now. I mean, compared to how yours looked like, yours look pretty like padded, and the shape of it is pretty cool. And so that's your new a new product coming up, right?
Yeah.
Like when is it going to be available?
Probably mid-November
Okay.
is when it'll ship.
Okay.
I have one that I have one that a lot of athletes are already riding, but the bolt pattern's limited.
Nice.
So I haven't really put it out there because I don't want people filing the bolt spacing to make it fit.
What do you think? What are your goals with 51 Speedshop for next year?
I think next year is the year that because right now, I mean, the business is only it's been around for a little bit, but I started selling products in June of this
year. Oh
yeah,
wow!
So it's taken me a while, but next year is the year that I'm really going to focus on kind of is growing the business, and I don't want to. I want to keep my focus on contact points and. I'm fine with something being a niche product. I'm okay, selling, the arm cups and focusing on extensions when, the bigger companies could, it's a rounding error for them.
Of course.
But, I'm passionate about, bike fit and people, being one with their bike. So that's where I'm gonna focus on that. So we'll probably go to a few different expos. Look at starting to set up a dealer network and a distribution network to be able to start growing that business.
Nice. Are you also coaching these days? Are you planning to keep coaching or?
Yeah, I do a little bit of coaching, but I don't actively seek to try to grow a coaching business. But I'll handle 5 to 6 clients at a time. But I used to, coach 15, 20 at a time. But I really want to focus on I'm good at coaching, but I have more of a passion for the bike fit and the cycling part of it, just because I feel like that's an area where I can be one of the best in the world at. Yeah. Where with coaching, you're helping people, but there's a lot of coaches out there, and there's a lot of great coaches out there. And I feel like I'm just kind of in the mix, especially in this town. Yeah. How many great coaches are in this town? How many great bike fitters are in this town? I mean, it's, so it's the component and the bike fit stuff is where I feel like I can be.
Totally. I mean, focusing on your strengths. Yeah. That's great. What, interesting trends do you see in the bike industry happening? I don't know. I mean, in the next few years, do you see anything dramatic happening or?
I think a lot of it's going to be driven by rules. One thing I've noticed over the years, I was part of the P5X project, and we spent, I think I was there for a week in the wind tunnel. They were there for like 3 weeks, really trying to squeak out every kind of ounce of reducing drag that's possible. And I do love that companies are now focusing more on modular integration of your hydration and of your bottles, because as a triathlete you have to carry a bunch of crap with you. So we want to be able to carry that in a way that has the least impact on aerodynamic drag. I feel like we've, with current rules and we've reached close to peak aero, because Specialized is just, I mean, they have their own wind tunnel and they just launched a new TT bike.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it wasn't, if you see people claiming like big jumps and drag savings, then I question that data, because Cervelo and now Specialized came out with bikes that they've worked very hard on, and they're not loads faster than previous generations of bikes that they've designed. Now they're better bikes because of this integration, ease of packing. I mean, so they're an improvement in the overall experience of owning bikes. So I think like the next thing that you could ever do is like get rid of the drivetrain. If like you can have some sort of internal gearing in the hub somehow. But But again, I'm sure 20 years ago, dudes are kicking back, being like, "Yeah, man, this is as good as it's ever going to get." So hopefully, I'm wrong, in the sense that we've hit a stage in this where it's going to be really hard to have these big aerodynamic improvements. So I think that, again, the focus needs to come back on, how do we make these bikes more comfortable?
Yeah.
How do we make them more practical to carry the stuff that we need without inhibiting performance?
Yeah. Man, I saw the new Shiv, the Specialized Shiv, and I don't know, like just by the looks, like that big container on the back, I'm like, what is that? Looks like, I don't know, I'm not a fan, but I don't know anything about bikes.
I think when you know something's fast, I think it grows on you.
Yeah, yeah, that's
typically
true.
You're like, yeah. But I would like to see things become more simple again. Consumers right now, they want everything. They don't want to see a cable.
Yeah.
They don't want to see, and then I'll tell you, it matters a little bit. But if you have a really clean setup and an aero front brake and all, you're up there with the super bikes.
Huh.
If you have a nice, aero bar on there, but consumers are demanding, like if Cervelo launched a new bike and there was an exposed brake cable or something, people would be like, man, I mean, the rest of the bike could have been just dialed.
Right.
People would complain about that.
Right.
And if that cable could make your bike super hard to pack, it could, but that's what consumers are doing. So bikes have become very complicated.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. One of the things that I really like about what you're doing with your products, and this is, I think about this. This is my me being a geek on all things marketing and business, is that because you don't do any marketing, right? It's more like with your brand, you basically just do word of mouth, right? Mm-hmm. And it's working because it's not just because athletes are using it; it's because it's a great product.
Yeah, we'll fire up some marketing here, but yeah, I mean, right now, like, we really just focus on social media,
right?
But yeah, that's what I mean. Like, when you ask me what are the plans for next year, like that's when we're gonna ramp.
Yeah, nice.
Ramp things up, because for now it's like things are going really good. I mean, just yesterday, I went to the post office and had an order from Germany,
Sweet.
Singapore. One was going to Iowa, and then Australia.
Nice.
So I'm shipping all over the world, and people are things are going good. But yeah, we're gonna step it up next year.
Nice. Thank you very much for being on the show. If people want to find you online, learn more about what you do with 51 Speedshop and your social media accounts, where can they find you, Matt?
Yeah, all the 51 Speedshop social media accounts are 51 Speedshop.
Easy.
So 51 Speedshop. The website's 51-speedshop.com. And then I have my own personal Instagram. It's about all I use. Instagram and Facebook. And I have MatSteinmentz.com, where people can book bike fit sessions and stuff. And that's Matt with one T.
Yeah, I always think about that, because like, I think there's been a couple of times where I would look you online or try to send you emails. I'm like, I can never find this guy. This is Matthew?
Matthew. Yeah.
Got it.
So my dad
thought
Matthew looked weird with two T's on my birth certificate.
Yeah.
So that's how I got one.
Hey, man.
I used to not like it, and now I think it's unique. Even though I do see more of Matts with one T out there.
I'm like you. I used to not like my name, Hugo or Hugo in Spanish, and then I was like, yeah, nope. I don't know. It's a very rare name. So, or
I like it.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Thanks for stopping by.